Hello? Sorry about that. Excuse me. Go lay down. Go lay down. Just because I said hello doesn't mean you have to go off like a rocket. Just give me 1 second here. Guys, you got to settle down. Settle down. Okay, let's try again. Is anyone here? Okay, getting my recording equipment set up here. And I think we're going there. So hopefully, yep, I think so. So let's see here. Okay, well, I see we have one person here. And should have some more showing up pretty soon. Hello, Andrea. Hello, Lloyd. Okay, I think I got things recording here. Let me get that going there. And I have this going here. So that's good. Okay. So, part of the reason that I wanted to get this going... Hi, Carrie. I see that you're here. And Crystal. I'm probably going to stop reading names here pretty soon. Anyway, I really appreciate this, and I really appreciate people showing up like this. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Ruth. So, thanks very very much, because I've looked pretty rough for a while. So, I wanted to make sure I look nice tonight. Hope you can see okay. I think I got a little too much light coming from the window, but trying to get the right lighting in this apartment is a little difficult. So it seems like we have 10 people watching right now. So I think I'm going to dive in and start talking a little bit about the last 3 years. I published my book in, if I get emotional, forgive me. I published my book in November of 2013, and within about 4 months, my life was just completely turned inside out. My boyfriend cheated on me, had been cheating on me for a very long time. I found out about it and threw him out. So there I was. I had just published a whistleblower book. Which is unnerving enough in a country that does not take kindly to whistleblowers. So I felt really alone, brokenhearted, just shattered, really, and vulnerable, scared. I still had book promotion tours, to do, and things that I had planned. So it was really a difficult time, and I tried to keep up with my speaking engagements and my hypnosis schedule and things like that pretty much through August. About August I got home from my last speaking engagement, and I just kind of collapsed. And this whole time, because of the heartbreak, I wasn't able to eat. It was one of those breakups where you completely lose your appetite and begin to starve to death. So the only thing that I could eat really was hashed brown potatoes. So I was fixing hashed brown potatoes to eat all the time. And not too much of them. It was just kind of to shut my stomach up when it was hungry. So it was kind of a really rough, it was a really rough time. I decided to try to buy a house, and that process got completely bollocksed up. It's almost like someone, after I published the book, someone put some kind of electronic tag on me in all the electronic systems, and anything I tried to do got screwed up somehow. Tried to buy a car, turned out to be a horrible car deal. I ended up having to let the car be repossessed because of a you know, a terrible predatory loan, and the car itself was not doing well at all. So anyway, just making sure that my recording equipment is doing what I want it to do. Well, maybe now it's recording. There, okay, well. So anyway, I've got about 3 recorders going here because I want to upload this for people that couldn't be here right now. So anyway, I know that I came on Facebook and shared about some of the things that were going on when I was just feeling so alone and so scared, and like I was stretched to the breaking point with not being able to sleep, with the hostility and malevolence at my apartment in Durango. It was just a very scary time, and it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. One of the most freaky things that happened was a woman came up to me after almost running over my puppy. She came up to me saying, you know, that I would never get that house now, and I had never seen this woman before in my life. I had no idea how she knew that I was trying to buy a home or any personal details about me at all. I was just having all this really, really strange things happen. And, you know, I can't go through a whole laundry list of 3 years of high strangeness and seemingly personal attacks, but they were ongoing pretty much the whole 3 years. They've quieted down somewhat in the last month or two. The last month or two has been kind of peaceful, and the new place here, living in Pagosa, has been better than the one in Durango. It's still noisy, it's still problematic, but it has been better. And I have been recovering over the last year of living here in Pagosa Springs. So I'm just trying to take a look back through some of these questions, and I will look at them, but I would ask that maybe if you have a piece of paper and pencil that you write your questions down, and then I will take questions at some point soon. So just looking here. Some of these comments are really nice, like this one from Andrea says, "Cry if you need to, we're here." Well, I might, because it's really been a rough time. And it's been unimaginably rough, and having PTSD has made it even rougher, because with PTSD, it's kind of like, because I'm a life coach, and I'm also a personal growth junkie, and so many people were sending me personal growth stuff during that terrible time when I would say something on my Facebook page, and they'd say, well, why don't you try this or this or this? And a lot of the things they were telling me to try were in my own personal toolkit of things that I knew how to do for myself, except when you have PTSD, it's like a frozen TV screen. Remember the old cathode ray tubes TV screen? If the picture froze, it was just kind of, you know. And that's what your brain is like on PTSD. Short-term memory doesn't work. I have had 2 things recently come up that I really, really wanted to go and do, and I thought that I remember them because I wanted to do them so badly. And darned if I didn't forget to go to these events or go to this this dinner with a friend, and we were able to reschedule. But I was aghast that a dear friend that I wanted to see so badly, I just completely spaced dinner with her. So this is the kind of thing that happens when you have PTSD. Your short-term memory just kind of stops working because you're running on survival emotions. Number one, the first thing comes up is anxiety, and then that either tips over into rage, which I would avoid at all costs, or it tips over the other way into a crying jag. And I would always try to, if I had to go someplace, I tried to go to the crying side, because rage is like a fire that burns in your body. It feels like it just burns my entire nervous system, the kind of rage that a person feels with PTSD. And rage is very uncomfortable for someone like me who considers all life sacred and doesn't want to create any harm. So trying to deal with PTSD has been a huge, huge challenge. And I've been dealing with it for many years. But the thing that's different about the last 3 years is I have had almost no break, no recovery time, between crises, large and small crises, that have been almost continuous for 3 years. You probably see my little dog behind me. That's Tika, with little black ears sticking out there. So anyway, so that's what's been going on. And that's why I've been kind of out of the public eye. It's just been really, really difficult. So I'm going to look through the comments here and see if there's anything here I want to respond to. Let's see, so we got a lot of people here, and I so appreciate all my friends showing up and new people showing up, and I really appreciate it. And thank you to the people that are sharing the video. And hello to Ignacia, if I said it right. Hi, Andrea, and so many people here. And Janet is here, Deborah, DeBritt, and oh, Brett is here. Donald is here. Thank you so much, Yvonne. So anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on here. Let me grab these papers here. There was a good chance that if I felt like I didn't have anything more to offer the world, I probably would have just withdrawn from public life and gotten off Facebook altogether and just gone back to being a private person who loves her dogs and spends all of her times with them. But the thing is I have more information that I want to get out there that I think is critical for the world that we find ourselves in these days. But it seems like so many things in the world are falling apart right now. And so when things are falling apart to this degree, it's a very delicate time. And it's a time when, as people like Lynn McTaggart have talked about with the her intention work, Dean Rodden with his entangled minds, the quantum principles, and how consciousness and quantum principles are related, that were laid out in What the Bleep Do We Know, that movie way back a long time ago, which I highly recommend that everyone review that again, especially if they're going to be interested in following some of my future work. So in What the Bleep Do We Know, they showed the links between consciousness and our human physiology and the quantum field. And I've been a student of this for many years. Way before What the Bleep came out, one of the things that I read years ago was The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. And that set my mind on fire, just like What the Bleep did for so many other people years later. And I loved What the Bleep as well, but I'd already had a wonderful dose of that kind of information from the Holographic Universe. And in that, he recommends the book of Barbara Brennan, which is Hands of Light, about, energy healing. And I read that one as well. So I've been following this a long time because as a small child, before I really even knew the language for what I was trying to explore or what I was trying to understand, so as a small child, I instinctively knew that there had to be a wholeness to the universe where science and spirituality actually fit together like a glove, like they just perfectly dovetail together. But the world we have around us would let you feel like they're they're like really far apart. And the thing of it is they aren't, So with the advent of quantum mechanics and quantum science principles, we see that place where they begin to come together. And there are some remarkable people. I mentioned Lynn McTaggart, also John Hageland, who has run for president under, I think, not the Green Party, I can't think, the New Law Party or the Natural Law Party was what it was. He has talked many times about intention experiments or meditation experiments where people meditate and create a field around a particular place that actually lowers the crime rate in a particular place. So we know that consciousness can definitely have an effect. The work of Dr. Emoto with water and the molecules of water and how they reform themselves when you put messages on the side of a jar containing the water. You know, so we have all these examples of how consciousness acts upon our actual physical reality. And so what I wanted to do is try to take that several steps farther and try to get people to think really, really far outside of the programming. Because the premise that I want to really present here is that our consciousness has been managed, farmed, manipulated, and programmed for not just the 20th century, but for millennia. Now, let's say service to self ETs that came here millennia ago and needed workers for their diamond mines or their gold mines or some whatever kind of work that they had done. They manipulated us genetically to create a version of a human that could do the work. And then they loaded us up with carbs. You know, I have to laugh every time I see the Ezekiel organic bread wrapper and it says, you know, God said, and if, you know, whatever that Bible verse is, said take barley and wheat and all these things. And I'm thinking, yeah, load them up with a lot of carbs so they have the energy to do all the work you want them to do. So anyway, what I was saying is that this management, programming, or farming of our human consciousness has been going on for a very long time. Now, what I remember from way back on Lyra, which is where I feel like I first had a human or a humanoid incarnation in this galaxy and solar system, is that reptilians came to our world and destroyed it, essentially. And we were not warlike people, and we did not know how to wage war. And so many of us died, and then we got sent off, the rest of us got sent off planet. Fear actually really shut us down, because, you know, a few of us tried to learn quickly to be warriors, but it didn't really work. It just wasn't in our nature. So we left, and but those scars we carried with us. And the things that I want to point out here is just how much fear shuts down our DNA. It keeps it from unwinding. It keeps the codons that we need to really turn on again to be turned on. Greg Braden had a wonderful video on YouTube where he showed DNA or discussed DNA, how in the presence of the emotion of fear it winds up very tightly, and then frequencies cannot move through it to turn on the codons in the DNA. But in the presence of love, contentment, joy, the DNA stretches out, and then the frequency or the wavelengths of those emotions can go through the DNA and begin to turn on those codons. So when you look at information like this, it means that the fear porn that is continually served up on the media is done so for a specific purpose, to keep our DNA shut down. Our DNA is under assault from fear porn in the media. It's under assault by GMO foods. It's under assault by chemtrails and the chemicals and the particle pollution that's in those. Pharmaceuticals is another way. I'm sure we could think of even a bigger list, but we know that there are so many things. I mean, the scanning machines in airports are said to now rip apart DNA. Bill Gates is talking, some post I saw recently, Bill Gates is talking about a DNA vaccine. Who wants that one? Who wants a DNA vaccine developed by Bill Gates? No one. Okay, I guarantee you. Okay, so it's our DNA that is really, really under assault. And the thing is, there's this transhumanism movement, you know, trying to blend human and machine like a Borg. that would certainly effectively shut down any evolution that might be our birthright, that is our birthright. Okay, so the thing that I'm trying to get people to understand is, like, humanity, especially those that are unconscious and unaware, they're like fish in a fishbowl. If you look at them and you ask them, what is this stuff that you're swimming in? What is this stuff that you're moving around in? Why are you floating the way you are? The fish is going to look at you and go, huh? This is just my environment. This is just my life. This is just, where I live and catch my food and do whatever. They're not questioning the medium that they're actually swimming through. And we humans don't question the medium that we're swimming through very often either. And the really important part is we must begin to question it, because there's been an entire matrix reality formed around us from time immemorial. Now think about the Spanish Inquisition. Think about the Salem witch trials. Think about every form of pure persecution that has happened by one human group to another human group down through the millennia. And think of the fear generated and how much that has tried to control our awakening and keep us held down. It has had a traumatic impact on us on a level of genetic memory. Okay, so with this traumatic impact that has been passed down through genetic memory, there are those of us that fear the expansion of our consciousness. So we start becoming psychic and picking up thoughts and feelings from people around us, like an empath. And we think, the church has a ready-made remedy for that. Oh, that's of the devil. So you just, oh God, I can't have that because I could get burned at the stake. So there's been all these different ways down through the millennia where the powerful, perhaps the Anunnaki, the gods that came from someplace and needed humanity to do certain things for them, they've been farming and shaping our reality down through the millennia. And this is what we really need to understand in order to escape from it. Because they say the first step in escaping from a prison is knowing of its existence. So we need to understand how insidious this programming has been, how long-term it's been, how much a part of the genetic memory it is affecting, and then begin to do something else. And the good news, I think it's really very simple. So a lot of us look up in the sky and we see chemtrails, and we grimace. It's like, damn chemtrails, wish somebody needs to shoot those things out of the sky, or do everything else. We get angry about it. What I've started to do myself is when I see them up there, I notice how I feel about it, and then I look at and I think, well, what if there were no chemtrails in the sky? What if there weren't any? What if it was just a beautiful blue sky? And so I look past the chemtrails and I do my best to imagine a beautiful blue sky with no chemtrails. And it sounds a little specious and a little strange and maybe a little freaky, but or maybe just stupid. But by using the things that we see in front of us that we don't like, those are the things that are going to inform us of what we do want to focus our attention on creating, that we do like, that we do love, that we do want in our environment. And I've got a lot more to talk about this. Let me see if I can find some of this stuff. I had some great what-if questions. And let's see. So this was from last year. What if we didn't have to wait for the outcome of a rigged election process to shift our world to the kind of world we want to live in? What if the reason we feel so isolated and cut off, so powerless, is because we've been deliberately conditioned to believe lies about who we really are, about what is really possible for us? What if all the fear porn spun out in the media was deliberately put out to keep you from discovering who you really are and what you could really do with your consciousness? What if all the divide and conquer rhetoric, polarizing buzzwords, political parties, patriotism, nationalism, religious beliefs was all to keep us from discovering the power of our united human consciousness. Are you indoctrinated? Do you realize that indoctrination is a mass form of mind control? What if this world today, with all its turmoil, is a crucible for awakening the power of our united human consciousness? Because united human consciousness is in the process of awakening, despite all the things they're doing to try to suppress it, to try to keep it held down. It is awakening. In many of us, it's awakening. Okay, so that shows just how powerful a wave that is. And it's really part of our birthright to discover who we truly are, and that we have the power in our own hands to make the positive change. It's in our hands. It was never in the hands of the elites. There are a bunch of con people and tricksters who have put this on us by using fear and trauma to keep us afraid and small and divided from each other. We're fighting with each other all the time. And the reason that they whip us into these fights with each other all the time, they don't ever want us to get together and discover what we're capable of with the power of our united consciousness. And it's kind of like this. This is one of the cartoons I thought about drawing, but I'm having such bad carpal tunnel problems right now, I can't really use my hands a whole lot. But just the cartoon I thought was two people fighting with each other, and there's this little cloud of dust around them, you know, they're just going at it. And then you kind of take a step back in the next frame, and there's all these different pairs of people fighting with each other, and their little dust clouds around their little fight and fisticuffs. And then you take a step back in the next frame, and you see all these people in this giant whirlpool, and they're still fighting with each other. They're ignoring the whirlpool they're stuck in, but they're still fighting each other. And then you step back, and you see the bigger picture, and you see that this whirlpool is actually a giant toilet, and all these people are fighting while the vortex is about to pull them down the toilet, and there's a grinning Illuminati pulling the chain that's flushing all of humanity down the toilet. And that's basically what I see is going on. It's a little bit of a humorous image, but it's not humorous really at all, because they have been the ones controlling consciousness for all this time. And they keep the divide and conquer rhetoric going because they do not want us to ever, ever, ever wake up. Because if we wake up and we start changing the game, there's nothing they can do about it. And I think this is why I've been targeted, and this is what the message that they do not want me to get out. And I've been kept busy with crises for 3 years, to the point that I haven't really been able to recover enough to even begin to put this kind of information out until now. So let me see if there's anything more I want to share here, and then I want to start taking questions. Let's see. I think I've pretty much covered what I want to cover for the beginning of things. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and look through the comments and see if there are any questions, and I will start doing my best to take questions now. Okay, so let me get back to the top here. And so we got that and that. If I miss anything, I hope that you'll chime in and let me know. So let's see here. Let's see. Really, thank you very much for the people that are sharing this. Here. And anything else? Yeah, things are getting better for me. So that's nice. Let's see. At least they seem to be getting better. And I love you too, Carrie Collins. Thank you. And let's see. Alrighty, so I didn't see too much. Anyway, if anybody has any questions for me about the past 3 years that I was talking about earlier, or about how you feel or think about consciousness, I'll be happy to answer questions on that. Okay, Crystal Simmons, she said, can I talk more on the collective consciousness? Yeah, well, I think that just like humanity, just like an individual human has a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a superconscious mind, I think humanity as a collective has a collective unconscious, a collective superconscious, and a collective conscious mind. Teilhard de Chardin talked also about what he called the noosphere, which is a field of human thought that surrounds the entire planet. And we're all linked into that, and we're all a part of it. And it's this that we need to draw on. And let's see, lost my train of thought there for a minute. So the collective conscious it's all linked together. The law of attraction in the collective conscious perspective, the law of attraction really does work. It's really a real energy and a real force. The thing is the way it's taught is often we only get half the formula. Keep your focus and your attention on everything positive, but then people tend to sweep what's not positive under the carpet, and when we notice things in our environment that are not positive, that are negative, that are ugly, that are whatever, there's a part of all of us hooked into the collective unconscious that is somehow supporting that. So the analogy that I use is when Yoda sent Luke Skywalker into the cave on Dagobah, this swampy planet, and Luke was strapping on his lightsaber, and Yoda says, "Your lightsaber, you will not need it." And he took it in anyway. And basically he had to face his fears in the cave, and his biggest fear was running into Darth Vader, which when he did run into Darth Vader in the cave, he killed him, then found out it was himself. So what I'm trying to say here is the things that disturb us in our environment are there to inform us of what we are carrying in our subconscious. And we need to use that information as such, instead of saying, "Oh, yuck, that's terrible, that could never have anything to do with me." We should look at it and say, there is some part of me that's recognizing that this is in the environment, and that's the part of me that is hooked into the collective unconscious, and I need to clear this from my energy field so that I can get back to manifesting the things that I want. So it's really not about shunning any part of ourselves, and it's not about shunning everything negative that confronts us, but using the negative that confronts us as a way to inform ourselves about what we may be carrying in our own individual subconscious. Because the more we clean ourselves up, so just imagine a whole field of people, and they're all kind of smutty and got dirt all over them, and it's like a picture, and one at a time you just go in and you wipe each person clean, and this person clean. So that's basically until you have a whole field of people that are shiny and bright and looking good. Okay, but that stuff that we see around us that is negative, it's a good idea to just say, okay, some part of me is participating with this reality, and what am I going to choose instead of pushing it away as if it couldn't possibly have anything to do with you. So if that makes sense, I hope that that's at least part of the question being answered there. So let me go back here and look at some of these other questions. So Crystal, I hope that helped with what you were wanting. And Janet is having a question here. My research indicates most chemtrails are concentrated over specific countries, the US and Canada, Australia, and Western Europe, with lighter trails in South America and Mexico. Do you think these activities are strictly something. I can't see the rest of it. So let's see. I would say that they're over a lot of the developing countries because people have an easier life there and they have more free time on their hands for consciousness expansion. And so the chemtrailing is heavier in those areas when to try to keep the control more intense over those areas. Third world countries, people are working hard just to survive. They don't need as much chemtrailing. They have other problems and other things, other ways that they're being attacked. So the developing countries where people have more free time on their hands, where they are able to go after those more intellectual, more spiritual pursuits that would cause consciousness expansion, they need more control there. So I think that's why there's more chemtrailing there. And I hope that I'm getting your question, because it cut off, Janet, after do you think these activities are strictly, and then there's a G, and that's it. So if there's any more that I get of that question, I'll do my best to answer it further. So let's see. Sublimius, you're saying, tell us about the past 3 years, please. I know nothing. I'm going to ask that maybe you listen to the beginning of this video once it's available to listen to later, because I did talk about the first 3 years of, after publishing the book pretty extensively there. So, and Carrie Underhill, let's see, I'm so pleased to hear that you tend to focus more on feeding love and light to the collective consciousness. That's been my focus also. Thank you very much. Nice to know that we're on the same page. And Leanne Lyle, have you used hypnotherapy as a tool to explore your superconscious? Would you speak to how that is beneficial? I have used hypnotherapy as a tool. I myself am certified in Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis technique, and it's a wonderful technique, and I love working with that. I hope to be able to go back to that soon. It's a very demanding sort of thing. I could be with someone for 3 or 4 hours and have to be 120% present with them the entire time, which has been very hard with PTSD, but I'm really hoping to get back to my hypnosis work because I really love it, and I love the beauty of people that emerges when I do hypnosis with them. And as far as doing hypnosis myself, I've had a lot of hypnosis, and I have explored some of my consciousness in hypnosis. It's really amazing. There's a process in the Dolores Cannon method where you can talk with your higher self. Dolores called it the subconscious. Some of us call it the higher self. But the interesting thing is I have a friend over in Durango who also does this technique, and we've traded many times. And just as a test, we would take questions, like my questions I wanted to ask for my higher self, and her questions that she wanted to ask of her higher self. And when I was under hypnosis, she asked me not only all my questions, but all of hers. And then we got the answers that came from my higher self. Then when we did hypnosis with her, I asked her all of my questions and all of her questions of her higher self. And it was amazing to see the similarity of answers, both from her higher self and my higher self, which really shows that there's really something going on here that's pretty remarkable, where you can ask the same questions of 2 different people's higher self and get the same answers. That's pretty cool. So anyway, hopefully that's a little bit part of that. Very beneficial. Clearing energy fields. Many good ways to clear energy fields, and probably some out there on the web from Lisa and Renee and some others that are really, really good. Personally, what I do is I smudge with sage and cedar. I sometimes use sound. I use sometimes my own voice because I have a classically trained voice, and I have sung in opera choruses in the past. So I use voice. I use chimes to clear my space. I use the sage and cedar smoke. One of the other things I've done is to put sea salt in little foam packets and put it at the 4 corners of my apartment. That has seemed to help. I've taken Andrew Bartz's advice and put a bag of ½ a cup of sea salt underneath my modem, my wireless modem, to prevent any entity invasion through the modem that Andrew Bartzis has talked about. And entities, that's something else I should mention a little bit here. But I'm going to continue to take questions for now. So I hope that clearing energy fields was good. Oh, one other way I've cleared energy fields in a pinch is with a feather. Sometimes feather, turkey, goose, whatever, you know, just a big feather, and then just run it through your energy field, and it will pick up a lot of stuff as well. So that's another way that I do it. Janet Saylor, do you feel your methods in clearing the negative from your life and choosing the positive have been successful? Pretty much, yeah. And I say that even talking about the last 3 years, which have been really intensely bad. It's just that it's kind of like learning to roll with it. The last 3 years have been something where things just happened so fast, and they just kept coming so quickly that even all the tools I knew to use, after a while, PTSD, I couldn't even get to them in my head because I was just locked up. Where am I going with this? I guess a lot of people said, Niara, you're attracting this, blah, 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 you know, all these problems and all these things that happened to me over those 3 years. And I understand that. I actually even agreed with it. But the problem is when you're constantly being hit with things, after a while, you can't think about anything except trying to survive the assault. And that's really the point that I got to, where I just couldn't even think about what I was attracting or what I wasn't attracting, or that I was being negative, or I was whatever. It was like just stuff kept coming at me so much of the time that there was no recovery time between events, large and small. And believe me, what I posted on Facebook about the things going wrong in my life is a fraction of what was really going wrong during these past 3 years. It was just a tiny fraction of what my Facebook friends saw of what I was actually really going through. Nobody really knows or understands just how intense or how horrible it has been for 3 years, with everything just happening and happening and happening and happening and happening. And when that happens, when all that stuff is coming at you, no matter how enlightened, no matter how educated you are, no matter how intelligent you are, after a while, you just get to the point where you're like this, and I just think, I'm trying to survive this. I'm just trying to survive this. And it's really a good thing that I have such a strong knowing inside that suicide is not a way out. Otherwise, I would have been dead 10 times over. That's how intense and how bad those 3 years were. And when I got my dog, I was in such bad shape. It was like, if I don't have somebody in my life to love and be loved by, I'm just not going to survive, whether I take myself out or not. It's just not going to matter. I'm just not going to survive. So that's when I brought my dog into my life, and she has been an absolute godsend. And now I have 2, and they're both just amazing, wonderful, loving little beings that I just adore. So, so let's see. No chemtrails in China. That's interesting. They probably would shoot them down. It's kind of a Western Illuminati kind of thing. Okay, Janet Saylor says, here's the rest of her question. Do you think these activities are strictly government, or could they be attempts to terraform certain areas by ETs and or ETs' inclusion with governments? If ETs, then do you have, and the question is cut off again. I'm sorry, Janet. Are they strictly government? No, I do not think they're government. I think the government has been coerced or seduced into doing them for whatever reason, and I think that there are multiple things that the chemtrails are doing. You know, there's Morgellons that comes from chemtrails. Chemtrails to me are basically the equivalent of the Romans salting the fields of their enemies so they couldn't grow crops. And they do many other things. They're poisoning the environment. I think that they may be worsening the warming that we're having on the planet by trapping greenhouse gases. It's been surmised that chemtrails have been being sprayed to increase the temperature of the surface of the Earth, to melt the ice in Antarctica. I guess there's 3 miles of ice down there, and they really want to get to that ET technology that's down under the ice. And the ice has been hampering their efforts, and so they've been doing the chemtrailing in part for that. You know, that kind of makes sense to me. As I wrote in my book about, I went to Tom Bearden's website about scalar weaponry and electronics to try to understand more, and I do understand more now that 3 stations, if you will, are needed to triangulate over a particular area to create a superstorm or a geologic event like a volcano or an earthquake. So the stationary part of that is the facility like HARP up in Alaska, and then the other 2 triangulating locations are laid out by chemtrails. And the chemtrails, they stay in place for a particular time, they do the job, and then they disperse because of the weather patterns constantly moving around the planet. So that's what I think. And I do think that governments are doing the chemtrailing. I don't know that they know everything that's going on with the chemtrails, but I think the people that are really in the know about what they're doing with chemtrails are not our government. They are this super elite group that kind of is over all governments, or tries to be over all governments, to manipulate them and control them. And I think it's coming from that. And I think it's part of the agenda laid out on the Georgia Guidestones to reduce the population of the planet to, I don't remember the exact figure, but I think it's something like 500 million. Because they think that's a manageable number. They're really scared to death that we're 7 billion strong on the planet right now. My God, what if we all woke up and discovered what we really are and who we really are and what we could really do? 7 billion of us. You know, just imagine if even a fraction of that woke up. So they really want to reduce the population, but they don't want to do it in a way that can be really tracked back to one individual or one group of individuals. They want it to look kind of accidental and part of something that wasn't really meant to wipe out human life, but oops, oh, it did. You know, I mean, this is what they're doing with chemtrails, with GMOs, with pharmaceuticals, and everything else like that. Under the guise of helping, they're trying to erase as much of the human race on the planet as they can and get us down to what they think is a manageable size population to farm, to manage, to control. So anyway, Janet, the last part of your question that I could see was, if ETs, then do you have, and that was all I could see. So maybe you can finish the question down the road. And Leanne, you're welcome. Yvonne, Palo Santo, okay, thank you. Okay, so do I think I've been under mind control? I call what I've been under mind control light, and I say that in comparison to what many other people have been under. People who have been in the mind control programs from childhood, often they have alternate personalities or multiple personality disorder, which is now called dissociative identity disorder. So I don't want to do this. Yes, I was mind controlled. I don't believe it started for me in childhood at all. I do not appear or seem to have any alternate personalities. Basically, what was done to me was I was traumatized into forgetting things that I saw and things that happened to me. But then, you know, after about 10 years, after I got out of the military, I had PTSD and a lot of free-floating anxiety. I had nothing to pin it to because I didn't remember what happened to me. But the anxiety was definitely there. The PTSD was definitely there. Had a very bad effect on my family life. At one point, I nearly committed suicide, and that's when I learned that suicide is not a place that I can ever go. Because when I sat down and really thought it through, and all my spiritual experiences up to that point came back to roost, I realized that if I shot my body dead, and it was laying on the floor dead, I would be somewhere. Because I know that because I've been out of my body. Okay, so I thought, well, if your body's laying dead on the floor, where are you going to be? And I thought to myself, you're going to be on the astral plane. And you know what happens on the astral plane is your thoughts are immediately manifested. No process involved. You have a thought, boom, it's right there in front of you. So if I'm depressed out of my mind, you know, in anguish out of my mind, and everything else like that, and I blow my brains out and immediately find myself in the astral plane, I thought I could be confronting monsters of my own making, and I wouldn't know what it was, and I would be terrified, and I would be stuck in that place for a very long time. And that's what caused me not to pull the trigger that day. And now I really realize that it's just not an escape at all. It's a way to make things much worse, and it's a way to really keep yourself trapped within this matrix. And the last thing I want to do is be trapped in this place, because I think once I'm done here, I'm out of here. You know, I think that I can go home after this incarnation. I don't think I'm going to be stuck here. But to commit suicide is a way to truly be stuck here. So that's part of it. So whatever mind control I may have been under, it wasn't the intense from early childhood kind of mind control that some poor souls get sucked into, and I have some of those friends who do have alternate personalities and who are still being messed with. And it's a really, really inhumane, and it's really hard to live with. And those of us that do live with it, whether the harassment is ongoing or whether it's in the past, you still live with the fallout. And it's not easy. It's not an easy path at all. And it takes a lot to continue staying in a body when you're dealing with this level of abuse. So, okay, and now we have Kristen Boyson. The past 3 years after your book was published, you could really have been targeted. Yes, and I do think I have been targeted. So, definitely. Let's see. Alrighty. So we have Gerg and Tina Beal. And chemtrails definitely have diseases and molds. And Janet again, if ETs, do you have any insight about who they are? I would think that it's probably the reptilian beings. And the more that I've sat with this information, the more I think that the ETs that the military-industrial complex has aligned itself with may be the ones that are called archons in the Gnostic scriptures. They're said to look reptilian or to look like the Greys with the big eyes. And I'm not saying that all Greys are bad. There may be some groups that are good, because I've heard all kinds of stories about how they can be good. Okay, but I think that some of the groups of them are not, and some groups of reptilians are not good. You know, I don't want to paint them all with the same brush, because I think that's a bad idea. I think there are good reptilians out there, and I think there are good groups of Greys. But these beings called archons, they are here. I don't even call them so much an extraterrestrial as an other dimensional, because they can't exist very long in our dimension. And I think that they exist here by attaching. They're like entity, demonic attachments to people. And I think this is how they control people, especially people that are already wired to be somewhat narcissistic. Those people are the ones that an archon will target, attach to, and try to take over and control. And then these people become like super narcissistic, just unbelievably, mind-blowingly narcissistic and sociopathic. And I think that that's what we're seeing in our society, and I think it's been a gradual encroachment that is now becoming really blatant and really ugly to observe what's going on around us. And that's why I say we've got to look at the law of attraction from that broader sense, where the dark things that are happening in the world, that are happening around us, it's not about shunning it and trying to push it away. It's about looking at it and working it into the whole of how we're looking at our environment and how we are going to reshape it. These things that are wrong could be the very things to inform us as to how we want to make the positive change to make things right. Because every time we make a statement about something we don't like, we need to turn that statement 180 degrees around and find something that we want to envision that would cancel out that negative thing. So it's about confronting, accepting that it's there, and then imagining the thing that we would want to replace it. Imagining the beautiful person, place, thing, situation, scenario that we would want to replace that ugly thing that we have to observe here. Okay, so it's about using the environment as it is around us to inform and change how we want to look at our world. Okay, use those negative things, turn them completely around, and imagine what it is you would like to see replace it that's beautiful and good and wholesome. Okay, so ETs, about who they are, you know, I do think that they're probably some of the negative grays and the negative reptilians, and some of those Anunnaki. Let's see, HARP. Kristen is talking about HARP in Cleveland, Ohio. I believe that. So let's see, any more questions? Lots of great comments. Thank you so much, folks. Okay, okay, Lynn Leslie, do you think there are reptiles among us, and can they really shapeshift? It sure seems like that. I looked at the Justin Bieber video. Didn't really see too much, but I think it's possible. I think that it's possible. I did see it one time myself, right after 9/11 happened. I was watching a TV with President George Bush Jr. speaking to the people, and I was flabbergasted because half of his face morphed into reptilian right there on the TV screen. And then it was only for a split second, and then it morphed back. But I was like, did I just see that? Did I just really see that? I was like, it was really blowing me away. So that's my own experience. I like to stick with reporting my own experience. But yeah, I do think that they can shapeshift. So, and then we have a question here from Kristen Boyson again. Have you ever had group energy clearing work on you to help create a shield against negative energies? I have not had that because I do have spirit guides, and one in particular who is a spirit guardian, and I know that they are taking care of me as best they can. And recently I have started looking at some of the things happening to me as possibly, I mean, they are what they are, targeting whatever. But it could be that the targeting is also a karma clearing. You know, maybe I'm clearing last vestiges of negative karma from a previous lifetime by going through this targeting. So if that's the case, then I kind of want to just flow with what's happening with as much grace as I possibly can and allow this karma to be burned off. Because I don't want to have to come back. If I come back to Earth, I'd rather choose to come back than rather have to come back. So that's kind of my take on it right now. And I know that my spirit guides are taking very good care of me. I do get the messages that I need much of the time to keep things from getting any worse. So I'm very grateful to my spirit guides and my star family, who I know are always with me. So let's see. All right, so I don't see any other questions here. Is there anybody else that has anything to say or share that you'd like me to read here, or any other questions? And I will be doing this again at some point. I'll be doing another Facebook Live to talk about different aspects of the Consciousness Initiative. In fact, I could at least go over the list that I've come up with so far, which is good. The first thing that I want to present is kind of a parable, and it will be loosely based on Alex Collier's description of how 11th dimension beings, which is us, which is humanity, came to be trapped here in 3D. So I have a story that I put together that is like loosely based on that I'll be putting out first off. Then in the next video, I'll talk about how we get trapped, mass mind control of indoctrination. Video 3 would be the historical context and perspective from the ancient to today. Video 4 would be about how our emotions are manipulated and used against ourselves and our best interests, and what emotions are really for beyond their basic uses and functions. And video 5 will be, you have been intentionally dumbed down, and a strategy to correct your course. Video 6 would be, spiritual evolution includes examining our own shadow from a new perspective. And video 7, comprehending the incomprehensible, monsters living among us. And that's about how far I've got. I may have some more notes someplace. But anyway, those are some of the things that I'm going to be working on presenting later. And I'm also thinking about taking Consciousness Initiative material from my book, Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light, and putting that into its own smaller book and selling that as well, to help people really understand all the different facets of mass mind control, indoctrination, and programming as a way of freeing yourself from it. So, now how do I know I'm from Lyra? It's something that's been with me my entire life. I started having past life memories emerge without hypnosis at all at around age 17 or 18. And the first thing that I remembered was being wiped out in the tidal wave that swept Atlantis under the sea. And so once I had that memory, which was very powerful, then other memories started to come back, you know, like working in a temple in Atlantis. And then other memories would come back. I remember doing a group meditation with a particular group in Durango, and I had a flood of memories come during that group meditation of flying in a craft over the surface of this beautiful world, which I knew was Lyra. And I was just a little kid in this craft. And the craft was tuned specifically to me, but it also responded to the thoughts of my parents. So if my parents wanted me to come home, they would just telepathically contact the craft and tell the craft to bring me home. And at that point, the craft would not respond to my commands anymore. It would just take me home. So that was it. But it really has. But Lyra has been a very powerful thing. Whenever I would read things about Lyra, it was very powerful for me. My hypnosis sessions revealed that I had Lyran origins, and it's been a very powerful part of my life, where the memories have become as strong for me as any memories from this lifetime. And it's brought me a lot of strength and a lot of comfort to be able to know of that connection with my star family. So, oh, thank you, Leslie, for buying the book. I really appreciate that. I really poured so much love for humanity into that book for 4 years. It was written with a single purpose, to try to enlighten and throw off as much of the programming as we can. So thank you so much. And so are there any other questions? Or, how we doing here? It's nice to laugh. I haven't been laughing very much for a very long time. So it's really nice to be coming out from under the cloud. And even if things still happen, I'm learning to roll with it better. It's not like things are never happening anymore. I still get stuff thrown at me. I'm just taking it in stride a lot better. And Lyrans are human. They have blue skin, kind of a turquoise blue skin, and it does darken in the sun, just like when we get a tan here and we get browner. And one of my hypnosis sessions, oddly enough, said that at some day in the future that I could manifest blue skin like my Lyran true self. And I thought, well, thank God it's blue. At least I can tell people I drank too much colloidal silver. So anyway, well, thank you very much. I don't see too many more questions coming through, so I'm thinking about closing this chat now. But I thank everyone so much for showing up and being supportive, and my heart's full. And I want to take the chance, if there's anybody on this that has sent me a donation, I really want to thank you so much. And my love for my friends and my followers is not restricted to those who donate. I love them all. I love everybody. But the people that sent me money when I needed it so terribly badly, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so very much. It seems like a miracle that I was able to raise the money for that car repair, which was $1,600, and the donations went over, and it's a good thing because the car repair ended up actually costing $55 short of $2,000. And the donations, I can't tell people how much I appreciate that. It just meant so much to me. I haven't had a car to drive of my own since the beginning of February. And I'm really hoping that this van I've been trying to fix up is fixed up, and I'm able to actually start driving it again here really soon. So once they got the engine going with the big expensive car repair, it also needs a water pump and a thermostat and new tires. And so I'm trying to get that work done. And but I'm probably going to have to continue to ask for donations for a while longer. My dream, my wish list, if people want to wish with me for it, would be that I somehow find a way to get a tiny home and put it on a little piece of land out here in Pagosa Springs, and put a fence around it so that my dogs have a place to run and play, and then have a reliable car so that I can get around the Southwest and visit my friends and get out and see people again. I would love to do that. I love to meet people in person, and I just appreciate you all very much. Okay, let's see. Can we be friends on Facebook? Sublimius. Yes, I think we can. And let's see, here's another question from Lynn Leslie. Why do I think there are pedophiles at the top? Well, I think a lot of them are very narcissistic, and narcissists are really good at rising to the top because they don't care at all what they do to others to get there. They're ruthless. They'll do whatever they have to destroy their competition and get to the top. And then once they're there, because they're psychopathic, pedophilia, all kinds of stuff goes on that is really horrible. And I think that's why they're at the top. So I think that it really hooks into that narcissistic and sociopathic personality disorders that are so horrible and devastating to those that have to deal with them. So anyway, this won't be the last live talk that I do. I will be doing more. And again, thank you very much, and much love to all of you. Okay? Alrighty. Take care. Bye-bye.